Praxis. We are coming to you from Todos Santos this month in Baja California Sur. It's beautiful here. This is our sort of temporary artist studio. We are doing a writer's retreat both for painting and screenwriting. If you want to be notified of our sort of destination screenwriting master classes, let me know in the comments below. I'll shoot you an email for that. Anyway, so today we're doing the secrets of, what are we doing today? The secrets of writing stories that compel the human mind to pay attention. I'm going to give it to you in 5 minutes or less. That's my goal. I'm going to make it. Otherwise known as the answer to the billion-dollar question. What is the difference between Finding Nemo and the Green Lantern besides the $1 billion? All right, so let's get started. So what is the answer to the billion-dollar question? What is the difference between Finding Nemo and the Green Lantern besides $1 billion? What makes a good movie good and what makes a bad movie bad? The answer is really, really simple, actually. And it's very, very simply that a great film, a great narrative, uses centripetal force, the force that presses in toward one unifying point, whereas a bad narrative, bad film, it employs centrifugal force. It uses sort of a disparate thematic approach, which has multiple points that press outward. That's it, folks. That's the secret. That's all you need to know about Praxis theory, essentially at its heart. But what does that really mean? Well, you've noticed we use the word praxis here instead of theme, and that's very, very intentional because theme has this sort of moralizing, preachy tone to it, right? We don't want that. It's not a preachy tone. It's what is this story exploring? What does the story intend to talk about? What is it about? So we look at Finding Nemo, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest films ever made. It's near word perfect. It's as flawlessly executed as it can be, and it's received the kind of acclaim that you would expect for a film of that caliber. Don't be sort of beguiled by its animation and its appeal to the child demographic. It is a masterwork of storycraft. Don't be misled. So, and it's easy to overlook it, right? Don't do that. So what can we learn from Finding Nemo? When you look at Finding Nemo, Finding Nemo is about one thing and one thing only. It's about the effects of a hyper-controlling parent on the relationship between the parent and the child as it oscillates through life. What are the stakes? We see immediately within 30 seconds the first two praxemes of the film. First two of the film proper. 30 seconds. Stanton and Lasseter introduce. By the way, Lasseter talks in one of the production interviews. He talks about how he got the idea originally for the film. It started to gestate when he yanked his son out of traffic and had this over-the-top reaction to his son being in danger, and was like, oh my God, that's not going to play out well. I wonder what that looks like. So it's not a guess, right? This is what the film intends to talk about, what it's about, what it intends to look at. And so we see right away the stakes for Marlin. Marlin is the protagonist. I often ask who's the protagonist of Finding Nemo. People sort of reflexively say Nemo. It's not Nemo, it's Marlin. And Marlin, in a great story, in any great story, you have the actions that take place, and that sort of Freytag's inverted check mark. You've seen this. It's in every narratology, every story structure, every book you'll read on writing. But that's just what happens. What happens to the characters because of what happens, because of what they decide. Who do they become because of that? That's actually why we watch. There's only one thing that the human brain considers heroic, and it's not fighting dragons, and it's not rescuing royal scions. It is simply the ability and the fact of change. Change is one of the hardest things for a human being to do, period, ever. It is made almost impossible by our biology to change. It's made almost impossible for us to ever accurately see ourselves in order to leverage any sort of behavioral tools that we would need to change. Therefore, the ability to become something else, to effect that change on a human psyche is the only thing that the human mind actually recognizes as heroism. So keep that in mind as you write your heroic stories. Don't get too swept up in the sword fights. We like those as a consequence of heroism. but not as heroism itself. Make sure you take a look at the video on Deadpool, by the way, if this is a trap you fall into. That film should have been canonized. There's only one reason it's not. It made one mistake. That film was brilliant. It made one mistake, guys. One mistake. That's it. That's why nobody knows it. All right, so back to Finding Nemo. So the plot is what happens. The emotional structure is what underlies those action points, what holds it up, and why we watch, because it's how the character changes. And the emotional structure is what holds the actual narrative together. We read a book, we watch a movie, we get engrossed because of the emotional structure. Now, what is the simplest way to distill emotional structure? What is it if you get lost and you're like, oh, theory this, oh, this tool, this, come back every time to this one simple lesson. Thank you, John Carr at New York Film Academy, where I learned it. Need and want structure. Now, in my mind, what it looks like is a jellyfish. So a jellyfish, if you take away the opposing polarities, if you take it out of the water, it just falls flat. It's just a mess of jelly and skin. There's no form to it. In order for it to have form, it has to have that opposing force, those opposing polarities, creating the tension, creating the structure of the form of the organism, and that's exactly what need and want structure do for your story. So need and wants should be in great stories, and really often just are. You'll find as you write, people sometimes ask me, students will ask me, oh, do they have to be? No, they can be sort of oblique or acute, but they generally are diametrically opposed. And besides, that's where you get the maximum leverage for your polarity, right? The strongest polarities are opposite of each other. So in Finding Nemo, we'll bring it back to Finding Nemo, what does Marlin want most in the world? He wants to keep Nemo safe. I'll never let anything happen to you, Nemo. What does he need? If you get lost, if it starts to get philosophical, just go back to the want and flip it. It's always very easy to see what the protagonist wants. It's made pretty clear in most films. So flip it. So what does he need? He needs to then let Nemo go. He needs to not be such a controlling, overbearing jerk of a dad. If you take away the cute animation, if you just read the lines of the script, Marlin is not likable. He's actually, they had to put the prologue in at the beginning instead of scattered throughout the narrative because he was so unlikable. He's borderline abusive. He's really quite horrible. If you just read it, if you read it and you think of, let's say, any actor, Brad Pitt delivering the lines, it's a different movie, right? So the stakes at the beginning of the film is we already see that he's driving Nemo away. What is he most scared of in the world? Of losing Nemo. Well, he's only looking at losing Nemo physically. He hasn't thought it through, or he's going to lose Nemo emotionally. But we the audience, understand what the protagonist does not understand yet. And what that does is create engagement. So when you go to write, you want to know that you as the writer understand more than the protagonist, and your audience should understand more than the protagonist as well, because you want your audience to hope and fear for things for your protagonist in each and every scene. And in order to do that, we have to know what the protagonist is coming up against. What do they need? What do they want? Are they going toward their want, or are they going toward their need? We want them to go away from their want and toward their need. We should fear it when they go toward their want. If Marlin becomes more and more controlling and possessive, we shouldn't like that. We should be afraid of that. And we should cheer and stand up and root for the character when they move toward their need. Clear so far? Good. Okay, did a quick time check. We're doing pretty good. So, need, want, structure, diametrically opposed. It works with the praxis of the film. Sometimes the praxis can be called the story question. Sometimes it's called the theme. I like praxis because it just moves it off the axis of any sort of moralizing, and it also moves it away from the story question. Can often be held to just the second act. Does the protagonist achieve X within this second act? And then does that contribute to another overarching story question? So it gets a little convoluted. Praxis is simply, what is the film about? What are we talking about? What's the story about? So if we move over to the Green Lantern, we go from a brilliantly clear model where it looks so simple and easy and clean, and you're like, oh, well, of course, that's self-evident. Anybody could do that. It looks like child's play. Now move over to the Green Lantern. There wasn't a lot wrong with that script, really. I mean, kind of, if you just did a quick read of it, there's snappy one-liners, there's button dialogues, there's in, there's out, there's punchy lines. Like what was wrong with it? It was really hard to see if you didn't know to look for a unifying theme. There are a dozen different potential themes in the first 10 minutes of that film, and we go into that in another lecture and definitely in our classes, and to get into more depth about that. But just to give you an idea, we don't know what Reynolds or Hal Jordan wants: to go back to bed, to be the best, to be a man-child, to win at the dogfight, but that loses for his company. I mean, it is to be like his dad, to be not afraid, to be a role model, it is a quagmire of mess, versus the unitary clarity of Marlin. Right? Now we go through and we look at a lot of different films. You say, well, that's an animated film, that's Pixar, it's easy, it's simple, it's for children. Okay, all right, I'll take that challenge. We look at a lot of films, we look at art house films, we look at Tarantino, we look at all of it, and you will find, without exception, in the greats, novels, literature, what have you, plays, movies, you will find this self-containing unitary theme, this praxis structure. And before we go, I'll just leave you with this. The prax theme is how we measure the engagement of the praxis with this story. So, for example, we think, oh, Dory's just, she's funny, she's comic relief. Absolutely not. Dory stands in polarity to Marlin. So she presents what in literary criticism is often called a foil, or a character's opposite. And that is, as you know, Marlin can't let anything go. He lives completely in the past, and his fear and terror comes from living in the past. Dory can't hold on to anything. She lives completely in the moment. She can't do anything else. So we see how Dory starts to drag Marlin toward her philosophy and away from his want, which is what we are hoping for as we watch him journey. Now, I'll give you another one. So you're like, all right, well, that's the sidekick. The sidekick, sure, I see where that fits. Bruce the shark. Just a funny bit of Fish Anonymous meeting, that's hilarious, like, good job. No, absolutely not. In order to overcome our fear of the past, we have to overcome our baser nature, that primal instinct for survival. We have to look beyond it, as Marlin doesn't do in the beginning, where he sees only Nemo's physical survival and his closeness to his son in that way, and he doesn't understand that he's going to lose his son emotionally at the higher rational levels. So what do we see with the Fish Anonymous? We see other fish, other individuals in this world struggling to control and master their primal urges. And it goes on and on. We can go beat by beat, and we do, through Finding Nemo, praxeme by praxeme, where we look at each individual moment of the film, each beginning, middle, and end moment of the film that leads to the next is tied back to that unitary praxis. All right, so if you enjoyed this bit and you want more, please do come and join us for one of our 8-week screenwriting courses. They are it's 8 weeks. You will write with all of our theory in our master classes. We take 10 participant writers. It's $3,000 to participate for the whole time as a participant writer. It's $1,000 to watch and observe and learn that way. Yes, you can bring a co-writer and split the cost. You can only workshop one screenplay per seat though. So yes, you can absolutely split the cost. Yes, we have a 12-month payment plan. Yes, it's fully guaranteed. The next one starts November 1st. Yes, it will sell out long before then. If you would like to join, follow the link below right away. It will fill up. I think we only have 10 seats left now. We have 10 to 12 for every class. We have 9 or 10 left. And do that right away. We'd love to have you. If you want to know more about our destination master classes, let me know. And we do have a book coming out, so super excited about that. So stay posted. All right, that was Story, and I think we made it in like 10 minutes or less. All right. Keep writing. We'll see you next time.